Zeri is the newest, totally balanced Riot release who definitely is not too strong. Riot reacted quickly to those who claimed she did have too much power though by smacking her on the wrist with a 5 movement speed nerf alongside some other changes, but the champion still remains strong and the highest ban rate in League by a mile, even above Zed and Yuumi, and that's saying something. But while her current build path is almost certainly going to be nerfed once people's wallets start drying up, there is another way to potentially build the champion: full AP. Hear me out, on average, AP Zeri does more damage than AD. It turns her into a burst-like assassin, and you already know that I found someone who I believe to be one of the most infamous players in League history who has brought her into Master Tier as support. Summoner we're analyzing today is known as, oh no, alright, I'll say it one time. The summoner we're analyzing today is known as UWANT DADDYsMiLK, an EUW summoner who's mainly played Zeri Support in solo queue this season to some crazy high stats. Now, while this player is most definitely impressive, while researching him originally, I found him under a different name, which was RNG Enigma ZIX, or Enigma Zix. I had planned to record games from this account that was in Master Tier as well, playing Zeri Support with an 80% win rate, but when going back a few days later to record, the account was a lower level and all previous history of Zeri Support games were wiped. I didn't know if that meant the account got banned and then someone else picked up the name or something like that. At this point, I was sad and thought the video was doomed, but then I saw a few days after that another Master Tier summoner in EUW was playing Zeri Support with the same build. The summoner name we mentioned earlier that will not be spreckened again. Checking name changes on this account, I was able to confirm that it was RNG Enigma Zix, who more than likely purchased a name change to this clearly superior name he has now. So now I'm googling Enigma Zix and finding old banned Twitch accounts. I cross-reference on YouTube and LOL Pros to confirm that Enigma Zix D, the name of the Twitch account, was previously a stream from the infamous summoner Apocalypse. Multi-season challenger, multi-season rank 1 hitter, and known by many as one of the most toxic players. So this could very well be him or someone impersonating him, but his ability to make AP Zeri Support work makes me feel like that is more than likely him. Whatever you think or have heard about Apocalypse, the guy is clearly a great LOL player. Last season he pushed this account, of which he has many he plays on, into Master Tier with a 70% win rate playing many different support champions. This season he has mostly played Zeri Support on this account with about 30 games and a 72% win rate. He also has once again reached Master Tier 180 LP, where he continues to climb higher and higher to this day. While Zeri can run away from most of her problems, we're not going to let her get away from talking about her weaknesses first. For one, Zeri is fragile, making you need to have perfect positioning and kiting even more essential than ADC Zeri. Like in our Twitch support video, Zeri Support requires you to snowball to be really effective for your team. Her full combo, while absolutely devastating, forces you to get relatively close to someone to pull it off, which is bad because of bullet point 1. And finally, and most importantly, she's from Zon, and aside from Victor and Arcane, my heart has no more room for Zonites. But even with all of these potential problems, Apocalypse has found a way to make it work. Super early in lane as Zeri Support is just about trying to get in poke with your Q or Burst Fire. Burst Fire acts as Zeri's auto attack and has a max range of 825. The highest range basic auto attackers have a range of 650, 661 if we're counting Tristan at level 18, so you literally outrange everyone. Unfortunately, your auto attacks don't go through minions however, so you have to have good positioning in side brush, but his goal at the end of the day is to whittle down enemies enough so that he can proc his keystone Dark Harvest. Later in the game, the goal is to 100 to 0 people, so the more harvest stacks he's able to accrue early, the easier time he'll have. What's also nice about Burst Fire and being a support is that you don't have to have vision of a ward in a brush to auto attack it down. If you know a pink ward or a blue trinket ward is in that brush, you can spam it with your auto attacks until you receive some gold and then feel good about clearing that vision. The passive portion of Burst Fire makes Zeri's right click auto attack turn into a spell that uses the charge you can see under her health bar. If that charge is below 100% and you right click someone, it will consume 10% with every time you do that right click, doing a pretty minimal amount of damage. However, if your charge is at 100%, Zeri's next right click will do massive damage that has 80% AP scaling, does up to 50% of the target's max health, and heavily slows the enemy. This is actually AP Zeri's main nuke ability. Early game while harassing with Q, he's trying to land as many right clicks at full charge as possible because it does some surprising damage that people really aren't ready ready for. It's because this does so much damage that he is burst firing or pressing Q so often, since burst fire charges that bar 10% every time he uses it. He rarely uses any right click besides the 100% charge unless an enemy is very, very low. Later in the game, with some AP items and a Dark Harvest proc, this by itself can half health an enemy or even more. You gotta be careful at any point of the game when right clicking someone though, because while Zeri's Q has a range of 825, the right click portion is only 500 range, which is the same as champions like Sivir or Teemo. He levels this up last though because it doesn't affect the right click portion's damage at all. Only Zeri's champion level does that. What he does max is Zeri's W, or Ultra Shock Laser, an ability that's basically an AP scaling version of Jinx's W, but if it hits a wall, it turns into a Lux Laser from that point of contact. That point of contact part is important because if you just barely clip a wall at max range with the first portion of it, that Lux Laser portion will greatly increase its total range. He uses this as Zeri's main poke ability throughout the game, and while he is mostly using it through walls to try to hit multiple people and increase his accuracy, if he's trying to burst one person down, he won't hesitate to use it without a wall as well. Ultra Shock Laser has pretty solid AP scaling at 60%, so as the game goes on, it becomes more and more of a nuisance to enemies. Do note he can use it through any wall as mentioned before, but he can also use it through dead turrets or alive turrets and champion created terrain like Trundle's Pillar. As Zeri Support, the large laser can also be used to scout out areas since it gives sight through the area it fires through for 1.5 seconds, and help in whittling enemies down before finally closing the gap and finishing them up with a fully charged right click. Just these three abilities together, the right click portion of Q, the burst fire portion of Q, and the W, is enough to start doing some massive damage in lane and netting some kills early. And all of these put together really turn her into a sort of burst mage, or really a burst assassin once we add in the element of surprise that's Zeri's E, or Spark Surge. It's a simple dash when you don't hit a wall with it, so use it how you would a normal dash, like dodging skill shots or closing the gap on somebody. But if he has some good vision control and he sees a lone enemy on the end of another side of a wall, he can use that wall gap close to clear the whole piece of terrain and then go in and land his burst combo. Aside from that, he also uses this to get to mid-game fights quicker, roam quicker, and escape from dangerous situations. So he's really holding on to it until he knows he needs to use it, like to chase someone down or escape certain death. You have to know the areas that are advantageous for you to use when a jungler comes around or when you're ahead, which pretty much equates to this wall on the red side, or alternatively this wall on the blue side. Similar to Bard, you can get a bit of a speed boost back to lane by hopping over this wall at a diagonal. And also similar to Bard, if you find yourself stuck in the alcove, you can escape back to your turret by doing this. Knowing all the long travel areas is important because he's so squishy and underleveled in comparison to ADC Zeri. He's a master of positioning himself in areas when harassing and roaming the map that will allow him for an easy escape in case he's jumped on, or an easy gap close if the enemy gets low enough. And since the cooldown of this ability is reduced with every auto attack or other ability that he hits on someone, he can use it multiple times in a scrap with good aim and spacing. Zeri's ultimate, Lightning Crash, is probably her most infamous ability thanks to the crazy speed boost it gives like you've seen on other channels like Vandrel. But what is a huge kiting ability for ADC Zeri instead turns into a more potent and wider range Blitzcrank ultimate for AP Zeri. It has that same 80% AP ratio that right click has when fully charged, but obviously in a huge AoE, so ideally he hits multiple people with it to do some massive damage, but more often than not he's just using it as a part of his full combo to 100 to 0 someone. That full combo is using your E over a wall to surprise the enemy, using your W when you're just about to land so it goes the maximum distance possible and does more damage. Upon landing, use your ultimate to burst down the enemy even more, and then follow up with a right click and as many Qs as you need to finish the job. More than likely none if you have an item or two. The combo is most important when teamfights roll around to where you have 3 different objectives you can go for. The first is the most fun, and that's acting like an assassin to just remove someone from the fight. He uses his vision from his W and wards to find the backline and then hop behind them, combo them, and turn the teamfight into a 4v5. The second is using his ultimate in a value fashion. Still poking away with his W first, he looks for an opportunity where multiple enemies are grouped up and then hops in to apply his ultimate damage to as many of them as possible. It's kind of similar to when we talked about Malphite support, just without the CC. Finally, the last option for him is to just be elusive and waste the enemy's time. The more poking he can do with his W and time he can waste, the better, so dancing around walls and reducing his E cooldown sometimes up to 5 times in one team fight waste the enemy's time for so long that the rest of his team can just converge on them while they try to kill him. For his build, he starts every game with a Spell Thief's Edge. On his first buy back, he'll look to pick up his level 1 boots as well as a Dark Seal in hopes to scale harder into the mid game. He then rushes his mythic, a Luden's Echo, before finishing his Sork shoes. If there's an assassin or burst threat on the enemy team, he'll build his Zonia's next. If not, he'll go for a Shadow Flame. Whatever he didn't build for his 4th item, he'll build next. If the game goes long or he needs some more oomph in his build, he'll buy an Elixir of Sorcery, and for his 6th item, and throughout the whole game like a good support does, he's buying Control Wards and maybe a Wardstone if the game goes very late. For his runes, he takes Dark Harvest for more burst, Taste of Blood for more sustain in lane, Eyeball Collection for more AP, and Relentless Hunter for better roams. He also takes Absolute Focus for more damage when he's at high health, and Gathering Storm for even more AP. For his flex runes, he takes 2 Adaptive Force and 1 defensive rune depending on his lane opponents. Zeri Support works well with poke-focused ADCs like Varus or Ezreal, or aggressive ADCs like Draven or Tristana. Zeri Support struggles against strong enchanters like Lulu or Seraphine, or accurate hook supports like Blitzcrank or Nautilus. Thanks guys for checking this out, I really do appreciate all your time. If you like this video, I heavily suggest you go ahead and check out last week's, which was on reworked Janna support. See you guys next time. Peace.